What's up guys and girls, welcome to another video. This video is going to be centered around hidden lore concerning Tyr. This lore that we didn't hear in any of the games, but this exists in the God of War cookbook. Now the lead writer Matt, he did help out with this book, even signed his name in it. This entry is about Tyr becoming the God of War of this land of Norse, and he talks about other gods of wars and the Aesir's reaction and the person that even made him the God of War to begin with. I hope you all enjoy this video. This will be voice acted by Dafookas, another God of War creator. He's absolutely incredible. Definitely check out his channel. Without further ado, let's get into the lore, and of course I'm going to break it down at the end.
Eons ago, my Aesir brethren, well, All-Father Odin primarily, but it was a consensus decision, assigned me a very distinct role in Asgardian affairs. Just like that, I became Tyr, God of War. It was an odd assignment, because unlike most of my barbaric kin, I'm not fond of fighting, or killing, or debauchery. But I decided that if War God was to be my godly role, I'd make the most of it. Make it my own, as it were. Over time, I quietly wove auxiliary functions into my job. I became Tyr, God of diplomacy. Tyr, God of treaties. Tyr, God of law and justice. Thus, in a broader sense, I took on the mantle of worldly peacemaker. I also invested much in the cross-pollination of cultures, a process that can neutralize ignorance and fear of the other that so often leads to war between disparate lands. In the process, I became quite fond of travel. I supped with many who would become trusted emissaries and friends. As you might imagine, my interpretation of the war god's official duties was not always well received by my Aesir kin. Some expressed preference for a more warlike god, maybe a raging red-eyed killer who lays waste to regions. Someone who loves carnage, like, say, Thor. Or the cruel god of war myths I'd heard on my sojourns across Midgard. The bloodthirsty destroyer god of the Maya, or the Nubian war goddess known as She Who Massacres. Or perhaps the pitiless Ares of Olympus. Once, riding an imperial barge on the Yellow River, I listened to Chinese storytellers chant tales of their brutal executioner god. Apparently, the very sight of his green robes caused foes to weep and evacuate themselves. I silently considered how deeply the Aesir would adore such a god. So yes, my own people wanted a god of war who was more warlike. But that is not me. I'll never forget my first visit to the great city on Midgard's southern river delta. I went there seeking to secure trade routes and expand cultural exchanges, two activities that always foster better relations amongst realms. As my chariot rolled into the Center Palace district, I beheld the city's legendary pensile paradise, the Hanging Gardens. There, on terraces, 100 feet high and literally spilling over with boughs of exotic growth, irrigated by wondrous water screw pumps, people of all races mingled in peace and the spirit of mutuality. Observing this, one thing that struck me in particular was that communal bonds were formed by simply sharing a meal. I see it as a verity now, even today in these dark times. Cooking, serving, and eating food together are inherently integrative activities. Communal dining invites individuals to cast aside differences. It seems to bring out the best in people. Yes, even Aesir gods. No single tome could do justice to the bounty of delectable dishes I've sampled in my sojourns through the realms. I ate with kings and queens in the gilded halls of great civilizations. I shared food with brutal warriors and fierce horsemen. Even the most warlike amongst them dined with good humor and communal vigor. So then, I hope this adequately explains why a Norse god of war is writing a book of recipes. Here's hoping these recipes, culled from the cornucopias of the 9 realms and beyond, can bring you some small measure of warmth and a good cheer on a frigid Fimbulwinter night.
I think that is absolutely pretty cool lore. Please check out Dafookas. I'll leave his Twitter and his YouTube channel in the description. Please check him out. But let's go over some of the things that we heard. I think it's pretty cool that Odin chose Tyr to become the god of war, even though this is not his personality at all, and it's obvious Tyr has some conflicts on the type of god of war he wants to be. He even brought up Ares from, the Greek saga, and I think that's pretty fucking dope. And he referenced some other gods of wars of other lands, and Tyr was like, nah, I'm not going this route. I'm going to be a god of war that spreads community, and I think that's pretty awesome. This shows from the very start Tyr was always conflicted with being the god of war and decided to set an example. Although we didn't get to see a lot of the character, it's really cool knowing this because he kind of went against the gods, right? While they all wanted him to be a type of god of war, he chose to be his own person. And I think that's why I have a lot of respect for Tyr, and why I do admit I am kind of disappointed we didn't get to see or hear more about this character. But one of the things I really found cool is the other Aesir's reactions. Tyr spent a lot of time talking about this, where the other gods wanted him to be more warlike, just like the other mythologies. I personally think that it comes from a place of power. If the other gods of war are these creatures looking for war and causing nothing but destruction, then Tyr being the outsider of that just makes them look bad. And I think that it really shows a personality of all the other Aesir wanting to be the best and just like everyone else at the same time. And Tyr was like, no, I'm gonna be my own person. This is the life that I'm choosing. This is the type of god of war I want to be, regardless of everyone else's opinion. It's just not who he is, and he worked really hard to make that happen as he visited other lands and other places. Tyr really was a cool ass god of war, but let me know your thoughts about Tyr and this passage and how he talks about becoming the god of war and everyone's reaction to that and his goal of being the god of war. Also, let me know what you like best about Tyr. I want to hear people's opinions, even though we didn't see a lot of Tyr or didn't spend a whole lot of time with him. I think that he is going to come back in future installments of God of War. One more thing I want to throw out before I get out of here, actually. Because he mentioned other gods of war, then is there a chance we can possibly see them in the future? Let me know your thoughts. I'm going to be out of here. Thank you guys and girls for listening. Deuces.